Hi, I know I haven't seen you in a while, but I just kind of wanted to come on here to make a different style of video. It's going to be more philosophical than like podcasty or vloggy. And I just wanted to talk about how it's okay to try and then fail at something. First, I'll tell you the kind of like the story time, and then I will go through like my reasoning at the end. So recently, I was hired to be a camp counselor at a company here in Colorado. But as you can guess, I did not end up following through with that. I am not currently a camp counselor anymore. It's something that really took a toll on my heart, my body, and my soul, and my mind. And I think that having to deal with that alone was really unhealthy. So I wanted to make this video kind of explaining how my mental state was with this decision and how I dealt with it. And I just want to preface with I probably will be emotional during this video. I'll probably cry a little bit. But yes. So let's start from the beginning. About 2 weeks ago, on May 17th, I drove up to a campground where we were having the training. Let's call it Pine Lake. And I was like, all right, I'm packed. I have everything I need. And this was just like our intro session, so we weren't up at the actual camp yet, just at a campground. So I got there, and I pitched a tent with a now friend of mine named Cody. And Cody and I were going to be tent mates for like the five-ish days that we were going to be at Pine Lake. The first day of training was pretty much a 101. We kind of just met everybody that was going to be working at this company, whether it be like they do backpacking camping or camps, they do like day camps, and then I was going to be an overnight camp counselor. They went over kind of like the risk management and like kind of the policies at this specific company, where they kind of taught us some cool stuff. Like there's a thing called Respect Pony, where it's respect property, respect others, respect nature, and respect yourself. We also learned how to do like a land acknowledgement, because the place up Pine Lake used to be native land, so we had to acknowledge that it was stolen and like know that we are on it for almost illegally, because we did steal that land. And we also learned how to do a environmental briefing. So when you have like little kids and like stuff is changing, like say you're going from like a paved road to a trail, and you're like, all right guys, what could happen on the trail? And they're like, there's rocks, we could fall, there's like all that stuff. And then they're like, okay, how do you deal with that? And they're like, go slow, avoid the rocks, walk in a single file line. And then at the end of that, you're like, okay, we know how to do it, we know how to deal with this environment, let's go play. And I think that was kind of really cool. After that morning, we had non-driver training, because I am too young to drive one of their vans, but we learned how to do like a walk around, and we learned how to hitch a trailer and just make sure that everything is good with the van before like we get campers near it and stuff like that. That first night, I called my parents and was telling them about all the stuff I'd been learning, like I just told you. And I was already kind of on the first night like, oh, I could feel like sort of like inner turmoil already setting in, that like I was being separated from my family, and the stress that really accompanied that in my mind. The next day we had hike training, and we learned that hiking with the kids, like we kind of walked for like 10 minutes, and they were like, okay, how long do you think that would take with kids? We were like, I don't know, 15, maybe 20. And it was 30 minutes. And so it was like kind of eye opening that these kids are going to really need the support of us. And then we learned principles of like leave no trace, and we learned some games to keep the kids engaged while they're hiking. The day after, we learned some behavioral techniques to use with the kids at overnight camp, sort of how to deal with like bullying, homesickness, and kind of other interpersonal issues that we were going to have with the campers, and how to deal with them. The following trainings were really fun. I got to learn how to belay and rock climbing, so I can go climbing now, which is fun because that's a big thing here in Colorado. I won a slow race in mountain biking, so it's where you like set up like a start and an end point, and you try and go from this point back as slow as possible. And it's really just about your technique and your skill at mountain biking that you can go super 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 slow and get back the slowest. And then when we were paddleboarding, we learned this thing called piano keys, where you line up like all your kids in a line, so like paddleboard, 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 and they all sit in the middle, and you send one kid to run down both edges of them and jump in at the end, and it's really fun. So if you ever have a bunch of people who are paddleboarding, would recommend piano keys. During these trainings, I was having a lot of fun being distracted and getting to know these like new people and getting to show them like around my home area, my hometown. But at night, I would call my family, and we do this gratitude practice every night, called Three Grateful Things, where I would get to know like what they were grateful for every day. And having not been there for like those stories they were telling during Three Grateful Things was really hard for me because me and my family are so close. So despite having all the fun and meeting and making new friends, I didn't even last like the full 5 days like tent camping at Pine Lake. I ended up having to go home on like day 3, take a shower, sleep in a bed, and then I slept in my car on day 4. Like, I am not a camping girly. My family always had a camper when we were growing up. So I was like, this is new for me. This is a new environment. I'm uncomfortable. I'm cold. I'm waking up super early for breakfast every day. And like the signs were there of that stress just building and building and building inside of me. But at the end of the week, I'd gotten to know the other like instructors and like higher ups that were gonna be up at camp. I made some decent friends, like I said, with Cody and a bunch of other cool, amazing people that I won't like name drop. So yeah, it was the end of training at Pine Lake, and we had 4 days off before we were gonna head up to the actual camp. During said 4 days off, my mom got married. So I love you, Mama. Congrats. So I was spending a lot of time with my mom's friends and like our family. We were making corsages. We were making the baskets for the flower girls. We were like special making little ring boxes for the ring bearers. Just hanging out with these people I've known for my whole life and meeting some of the new people who are going to be in my life, like my stepbrothers and my stepsister and their kids. So my mom got married on that Sunday, and I had been hanging out with them for those 4 days. So we got off on Wednesday, and then to Sunday was the break. So that next morning on Monday, I had to be up at camp at 9 a.m. And that day is when I truly started losing it. Once I got up there to camp and like I could feel the physical distance between like the lack of communication and that physical distance. Like my mom was on her honeymoon. Like in my head I was like, I'm alone. Everyone's abandoning me. I have nobody to talk to. And like meanwhile that's happening in my brain, we're getting lectured at about like stress management techniques, and they're telling us that like you're gonna be stressed, you're gonna feel overwhelmed, you're gonna have to be flexible, you're gonna have to wear a bunch of different hats. And I was like, this is physically not helping me at all. Like I can't explain like how much this isn't helping me. Like I am stressed, I am overwhelmed, I can't talk to anyone. I'm in my head, and meanwhile all of this is going on. I can't imagine having like feeling those feelings and having 14 kids to watch like at the same time. Like yeah, so I was like in my head I was like, my mom's leaving me. And like I'm really close to my mom. She now has this person in her life who's this wonderful, I love this guy. My stepdad is such a good person. But it's like in my head, I was like, my mom's abandoning me. I'm up at camp for 10 weeks. I don't get to see her. And I was like, all of this just compounding, I truly broke down for like 3 days straight until I quit. So that night after they lecture us, they're like, all right, and now you're gonna go get prepped for backpacking. um I don't I've never been backpacking up until this point, and I don't think I'm gonna go backpacking ever again, to be completely honest with you, because you have this heavy backpack full of your sleeping bag, your tent, your clothes, your food, your whatever, like your book, right? And it's like, I don't know how heavy my pack was, but like heavy enough to where I was feeling it. So I could not imagine having to take kids up there and like hike like the couple miles, mile or two, taking anyway. But we were learning along the way. They would stop, we'd get water, and they'd be like, all right, this is how you can deal with campers on trail. This is how you keep campers engaged on trail. This is how you deal with campers who are like, how much further? Like stuff like that. Managerial stuff in a sense. But we hike, like I said, the mile, maybe two, up to the backpacking site. We set up our tent. We were hanging out. I started reading my Kindle, and I was like getting to know some of the people I hadn't gotten to know at training directly, right? But like as soon as I'm not like surrounded by other people, I'm like, there's no service here. I can't talk to my support system. I have these friends, but I've made they're like either like acquaintances or like light friendships. Like we've known each other maybe a week. Like it's kind of just like these people are so cool too. Like I kept telling everybody, it's not you guys. You guys are so cool. You're amazing. But I am the type of person who can't speak my deep truths and like my secrets and my feelings to a person I've like just met. Like we kind of have to have a foundation already. Um, if that makes sense. Like I just like can't, right? So that night, um, it's like raining, we're cooking, they're setting up a tarp so that we can cook under the rain. And that's kind of like, I had lunch, we had like ramen out on the trail. And this is kind of where it like hit the fan. I had to lay down super early. I skipped dinner that night. So like despite going to lay down like sleep at like 4 p.m. and then waking up at 8 a.m., I got like 5 hours of sleep, like actual rest, just because of how out of it I was. Like it's cold as hell up in Colorado. It was raining the whole time. My sleeping bag isn't like one of those hood ones. It's just open at the top, and I was like, so I'm freezing. I wake up the next morning and I'm like, this is it. I cannot do this anymore. My parents, so like this whole time I'm having the freak out, like on lecture day, I called my mom like 3 times. She kept like trying to talk me down, telling me about how it was hard to start her business, how in France I like freaked out but then had like a really good time. They kept using my freak out in France as an example. When I went to France, I had a big freak out like the day we got there. So it was like we got off the plane, we headed into the city, into Paris, and like we had set up our stuff in the hotel room, and that's when I started to like lose it. And I went out in the hallway, called my parents, and that was when one of my teachers came and was like, hey, do you need to talk? You can go take a walk. And I think what made a difference in France was I knew my teachers and I knew the other people. Like I had known them for 2 years. Some of these people I had known since middle school, right? So I could talk to them about it. There were also other people in France who were freaking out because none of us had been like nonetheless like away from our parents, but truly across the globe from our parents. And you know, so like we were in France, I wasn't alone in like feeling those feelings. We were feeling those feelings together. But at camp, most of these people had been to college. They had been away from their families before. Most of the staff at camp was international. So it's like I'm just losing it, and I felt like a giant baby. Like I didn't go to college. I'd never been away from my family in the sense that like that distance and that amount of time. And I was like, I'm not prepared for this situation internally in my mental health space is not one that's equipped for this type of conversation or this type of environment. So I ended up quitting. The morning I woke up in the tent at backpacking, I was like, I cannot do this anymore. And so I talked to one of the ADs. I was like, hey man, I really don't think this is the place for me right now. I can't, like, my mental health space is not going to be helping these kids at all. Like, I need to go home. And so I walked back to base camp, had a chat with another AD, the AD of staff and campers, and she's like, I really want you to stay. We hired you for a reason. I want to remind you you're not here against your will, but I think that you can get through this and have a really fun summer camp experience. And I was like, respectfully, I've been thinking this over for like the past like 3 days, right? And I was like, it's just the lack of my family, lack of like a work-life balance, the distance. Like, you get 2 hours off a day at camp, and then 1 day off where you get to leave every 2 weeks or something. Well, that's a big fly. But I was like, this is not a sustainable environment for me to be in, and I don't think that I can do this camp environment right now. And so I've been off for 2 days now. I quit on Wednesday, and when I'm filming this, it's Friday. And I've been doing a lot of thinking because, like, I just needed to be alone. And that was kind of another thing. I am an introvert at heart. Like, I like talking to people, and that fulfills me to like a certain extent. But having to be on all the time is, I think, what is like the second biggest contributor to the mental break that I had. When I quit, I got to talk to my camp director, and I had talked to so many people before this that were like trying to convince me to stay, to where when I got to him, he was just like, I get it. I understand that sometimes this is not the place to like find what you need. And he's like, he just said he was here for me if I needed anything. Like, if you need a reference, I'm here. If you need to talk, I'm here. Like, anything, I'm here. And I was like, thank you so much. And another thing he said that's been really resonating with me and helping me heal was, he said, it was so brave that you came here and tried this. And that is what, like, still is sticking with me in my heart right now, is I did give it a go. My mom, when I talked to her, kept being like, wait till the campers get there, wait till the campers get there. And I was like, if I waited till the campers get here, I think I would have had a bigger mental breakdown than the one I was currently already having. So I kind of just wanted to explain the situation, but now I can kind of analyze my own actions a little bit. So I just wanted, let's move on to the philosophical lens that I tried something new, right? I think that even though I had gone through with a tough situation before, that it's okay that I failed this time. Like in France, I had gone through that little like tough spot where I was like, I can't do this, to where I was having like a great time the next day because I had someone to talk to who knew me on a deeper than a surface level. And that it's okay that I failed this time, because no one knows you better than you. I could tell that something was truly off inside that no one else could see, right? Like, my mom kept being like, you're gonna be fine. The AD kept being like, you can get through this. But I knew I needed to put myself first. I kept telling like some of the friends I had made that, like, truly this is my thing. It was nothing to do with them. They were amazing people. I just needed to put myself first. Another bit my camp director told me is like, take this homesick, scared part of yourself and bring him further into your life. Bring him out, bring him to places where he'll get exposed and where he'll grow. And I think that's probably what's going on in my brain, is like, I do need to get out more, explore what other people and relationships mean to me, what this part of me means to me. Knowing your limits, I think, is like the most beautiful and tragic part of being human. Because I was truly in my head thinking of like what the summer would look like if I stayed, the friends I would have, the connections I would forge with campers and making their summers great. It was hard to know that I wouldn't do that though, because on the opposite end, it's like I would miss my family. I'd go down to this dark space of regret and shame and about not being able to be an adult. Just a terrible mental space where I'm like, I can't do that. I can't, like, I physically cannot be in that role currently right now. Um, so to wrap this up, I would say if you take one thing away from this video is start a journal, start a relationship with someone where you can talk about these things. Everyone needs a space to decompress, and if you're anything like me, sometimes that space can't be another human. Sometimes you just need to get it out. So get those feelings out on the page, because you cannot bottle that stuff up. And that's what I've been learning. Like, that's what I was doing, right? I was journaling to a certain extent, but I couldn't express my feelings to anyone else. Like, I couldn't tell anyone else I was overwhelmed until, like, it got really, really, really bad, and I started breaking down in front of people I don't know. And, like, just, you need to do you, and, like, in the most Leo Skeppy version of this, you need to be selfish sometimes. My friends up at camp were like, you don't need to go. You could stay here with us. You don't need... But it was my choice. It was me putting myself first so that I didn't feel like a piece of... You know what I mean? Like, I needed to do that. I needed to be selfish in that moment because there was truly no other option, right? So sometimes you gotta respect pony yourself. And I think that's the biggest part of respect pony is yourself, because you can't put anyone else over you. Like, there are certain people that you will do that for, but you know what I mean. You gotta do you. So hopefully this helped you in some way. I'm surprised I didn't cry, actually. But thank you guys so much for watching. Yeah, I'll see you in the next one. Toodles.